Welcome back, everyone, to the Alienware Analyst Desk. I am Kelly, and we got Taco and Ro here. Guys, that first game we saw, it was 2-0 for Black Dragons, but we definitely saw some trades going back and forth in the early to mid game. So what do you guys think that this match 2 is going to have?
It's already evident that Black Dragons took a lot of what they learned from their matchup yesterday against Elevate and carried it over into today's matches. So I think we can expect to see the same sort of thing from particularly the Oceanic team is kind of who I'm keeping an eye out for. Scylla seemed as though they had a lot of potential.
Yeah, I think both of these regions that we're going to see right now both take a lot of inspiration from NA, so we're going to see a lot more. I mean, last game was even, right? But I think we're going to see a very even meta game, whereas I don't think we're going to see a Wheelix like Entity pulled out.
Really? You don't think there's going to be any strange picks whatsoever?
I mean, there could be cheesy picks, but for the most part, they'll be following a certain NA meta.
All right, well, let's take a look at Scylla Esports.
Scylla Esports. MingyuSeo. Torreyskiez. xShred. Envisionise. Kayo.
Now, obviously, we saw Scylla go up against Luminosity Gaming, so maybe not showcasing their best.
No.
What are we going to expect out of them today?
I mean, I think much the same as yesterday. Maybe we'll see some different picks. They had some close moments in the early game versus LG, but versing LG is much different than versing Nocturns.
It definitely seemed like Mingyu felt confident, even going up against Barracuda.
That's not something that I see wavering at any point during this set either, because Mingyu, that's just the kind of player that he is. He is a very confident hunter in his ability, largely because of the fact that he knows just how mechanically skilled he is.
And even when they were down, xShred was actually doing a really good job keeping up with gold and with levels to the enemy mid lane.
Exactly. He played just how he should. You know, he knew that he was playing a god that had a later power spike than most others, so he played to that strength and waited it out, but unfortunately, the rest of the team were a little bit behind before that happened.
And I know I sound like a broken record, but time and time again, we're going to be focusing on the solo lane, or do you think it's actually going to be changing over to the dual lane or mid?
Looking at Oshi and their traditions, I guess, in the past, from past HRXs, is I would have to expect them to have a little bit more of a North American mindset coming into these matches and trying to counteract the aggression that they're certainly going to be expecting from Nocturns.
That's true, but there's certain picks. They could switch it up. They could switch up their starts, but I think mostly we're going to see 1-2-2, 2 in the solo lane, and that's where the aggression is going to be in the early game.
And speaking of Nocturns, let's check out their roster.
Nocturns Gaming. Zaionsix. Noitulover. Nozq. Smitevo. Beltway.
So yesterday we actually saw Nocturns get a first blood on Circuit, which, you know, gave him some potential and everything, but going up against Energy, the 2-time World Championships, that lead slowly started to turn to a deficit.
It's hard to keep a lead like that ahead of a team such as Energy, who's been there and done that. They know how to play from behind, even if it's a little lead or a large one. But for Nocturne, though, it's still great that they got that bit of experience against Energy, because it's very important to try and match that up with the day. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Nocturne maybe going a similar drafting route as what they played against Energy yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday they picked Sylvanus, Cirque, Hachiman, Kakolin, and Discordia. We actually haven't seen too much. We haven't seen any Discordia besides that game. Why haven't we seen her?
I don't know why we haven't seen her, actually. I quite like her as a god, so, but it looks like he's played her quite a lot, and he might just favor it again. We might just see that's his god for the rest of the tournament.
Just seems like people are prioritizing Raijin more than anything.
It's hard to not prioritize Raijin in a meta that is currently centralized around buff secure. Solo and jungle is so important, because if you have your speed and your blue buff on lockdown, then you never have to worry about rotations. If anything, you're going to be the team initiating the aggression against your opposition by being in position to invade those speed and blue buffs. And it's the fire elementals control as well that you have to keep in mind. Those fire elementals, they continue to stack up.
Yeah, very important to get that experience in that gold in the early game, and to make sure that carries you through to the buff invades for the next 7 minutes.
Speaking of those buff invades, I think it was actually you, Taco, yesterday complaining about Nocturns using 3 members to take down the buffs, while the other enemy ADC was able to just take him by himself, and he was up and ahead in so many levels, even though they were still 0-0.
The only concern for that is when you're splitting that experience with your Hunter in the duo lane, which as of right now, I wouldn't really consider that the traditional way to do things. It's just because of the fact that Hunters having all of that solo farm to themselves is going to be what boosts them ahead in their levels to make them so strong in the team fights. But splitting that experience just shows that you have a little bit of a lack of map pressure, and that was the case. They couldn't afford to try and shift over to speed and blue. They knew that those buffs were getting invaded all the time. They couldn't really afford it if they wanted to.
We've seen a lot of different starts today. Do you think we're going to see the typical start of clearing the first wave and then going to buffs, or do you think we're going to see an invade?
Not in the first game. I think we'll see some typical stuff in the first game, maybe some different picks, but I think the start's generally the same.
It's almost always better to snag that wave first off, because the wave is worth just so much experience in those first 4 levels that you don't really want to be missing out on those unless you're having some sort of guarantee that you're going to be able to secure your enemy's buffs. But those sort of invades usually involve other aspects as well being introduced, such as your mid and whoever is starting alongside of your mid laner rotating over as well.
I want to focus on what these teams can do and improved from last game. And last game we saw Envisionise play. He built a very expensive item, item number 2, something that you were not too happy about.
The mystical mail. It's very hard to justify it as your second item slot when you are left in a position as what Envisionise was facing. That might have just been a full commitment kind of mentality. Maybe he'll have enough protections and health to try and deal with the damage that he was actually facing up against, but just wasn't able to pan out for him. Item builds are definitely going to be important, but I don't see him making or repeating that same play.
And it really could have been a nerves thing as well, because remember, even from both teams, a lot of these players, this is their first time on the world stage or the first time on an international game at all. So it may have just been an oversight when he was nervous, but hopefully those are shaken off today.
Definitely. And to all of you that couldn't join us here today because we have a wonderful audience, we wanted to make sure that you guys could get stuff as well. And who does not love merchandise? Smite merchandise, of course. You guys can save 10% on merchandise during the HRX using HRX SMT10. You guys can check that out at merchandise.game, into the AM, or 86.com.
Always a lot of fun having your Smite gear to represent in case you ever go to any Smite events. I've seen a lot of people here today wearing all of their Into the AM gear.
Yeah, we got this cute little plushie as well, Fonro, who was once the best dog, but not anymore apparently.
Oh, I think he still is.
Yeah?
Especially after his recent buffs.
Do you think we're going to see him at all? Maybe in the support role?
I don't know if in the support role,
No?
maybe Aurora's not playing here,
Oh, you're right,
unfortunately.
you're right.
But I think jungle role may be adapting. That's his god.
I am certainly, I'm almost expecting a defender to somehow sneak its way into a draft. Especially with his recent buff, he's pretty viable at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't really see it coming out in this matchup, though, between these two teams.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the changes that we saw from Super Regionals, where Guardians were super prioritized, and now they're still, but a little less. It definitely seemed like Assassins were given a bit of a buff in the last few patches.
Well, I think Guardians are still the best class in my opinion, but I think we won't see them as much until the following days. This is more the generally more inexperienced teams, the ones that experiment a little more, and the established metas that will come forth in the underworlds will be, I think, more Guardians.
So many people are favoring these Guardians because their base damage is actually very reasonable whenever you're trying to take them into those damage-oriented or even the hybrid-oriented builds for jungle. And I think that's a large part of the reason why, as Ro mentioned, they are probably the best class right now.
It's going to be a really interesting game, guys. Scylla Esports versus Nocturns Gaming. Just at the first look before going into picks and bans, do you guys have a little edge to anyone from what we saw yesterday especially?
From what we saw yesterday, I would give the edge to, still am I, guys, it's hard to say this, but I would give the edge to Nocturnes.
Well, Mingyu seemed very competent.
Yeah, but on the solo side and the jungle side of the map, it was quite the opposite.
A bit rough.
Yeah, but we saw Envisionise limbering up on camera before. It looks like he's ready to play, he's shaking off those nerves. So hopefully he's learnt from his mistakes yesterday.
Do you think xShred is still going to be playing a passive game and staying back, or now that he's going up against Nocturnes, do you think he's going to be a bit more aggressive?
I think it'll entirely depend on the pick. I know he can play both kind of roles, so it just depends what pick fits the comp and what they'll take in the end.
I think that it would probably have to be favored towards Nocturns in this particular matchup, mostly because of the fact that Nocturns is just a little bit more experienced. I think the players as a whole are more experienced at a competitive level in comparison to Scylla. And that is always a pretty big advantage to carry into, especially when you're coming live to the international stage. It can be really nerve-wracking, as Ro already mentioned. That might have been a little bit of a factor for Scylla. So Nocturne, they were fairly impressive yesterday. And
Nozq on that mid, like, I wonder if they're going to take a raw away from him. We already saw one raw today and then a raw ban as well. Yeah. I mean, they beat NA and EU team as licked yesterday with Noz on it.
Aurora was up here talking about it yesterday as well. It's really useful to have that extra sustain, even because the Oceanic teams, or I guess all international teams, you know, we have faults, you know, but it's when we have that sustain, it really makes up for that and gives us more time.
Yeah, sustain definitely seems to be the name of the game right now, but I want to see more aggression and Fire Giant steals. I was very surprised with that Circuit jump in.
I still kind of can't believe that an ability that couldn't have done more than 250 damage is what managed to secure a Fire Giant, but that's just the fun of Worlds. That is really just the best part about watching all of these teams finally get a chance to show their stuff.
Do you think we're going to see any crazy aggressive plays? Do you think that it's going to be a weird start at all?
No weird starts. Aggressive plays, definitely, especially from Mingyu, like we saw yesterday. Just hopefully he tones it back that little bit. And just
I don't even, like, Mingyu was aggressive, but he just seemed confident, and I felt like he just was overconfident, right? Once Barra popped that Aegis, you should have ran away.
I mean, I spoke to him afterwards. As soon as he got that double tap, his mind, he was going to jump in because he gets so excited. It does like 600 damage, which is crazy. So he's like, I'm jumping in. It wasn't a good idea.
It looked close, but you're already so far into the enemy jungle, it's hard to really chase them down once they start running away. And then Barra, it's just Barra. He's going to turn around on you and kill you.
Exactly. To be completely fair to Mingyu as well, his Ricochet was probably coming up within the next second or two, which was another reason why he probably looked to take such an aggressive stance against Barra. It's just really difficult to try and turn it against an AMC.
All right, guys, enough chatter. Let's get into the picks and bans of game number 1. It's Scylla Esports versus Nocturns Gaming. Make some hype, everyone.
Gotta love the Oshi side of things. And these guys really, I am very hopeful for Scylla because this is their opportunity, as Ro was talking about yesterday, to finally get that international LAN win.
Yeah, we've been looking for it for the past couple of years. Finally, this team, they're in a best of 3 versus not NRG this time, but Nocturns, and this is their best chance. I think so, anyway.
I'm really excited to see these first bans come out. I don't really feel like there's going to be too many target bans.
No, they're taking their time, so clearly they're still talking about it.
I could imagine to be similar to what we've been seeing so far, and that's the Colin, Oler, AMC, that kind of direction, because those are some of the picks that you would expect to see a lot of hyper-aggression from, and most teams don't want to try and actually deal with it or have to worry about counter-drafting around it.
Wow, still no bans coming out. Definitely seems to be a lot of discussion going on. And there we have it, the Odin ban coming out. That O-ship on Odin definitely probably put some fear into a lot of players not wanting to have to deal with that kind of damage and pressure.
Exactly, and all coming out straight after that. That's the NO meta.
I think it's mostly for Nocturnes banning away that Odin because they can maybe lean towards an early pick raw selection, or even in the 4th and 5th, but I would anticipate it in the top 3 simply because Scylla very likely to ban it. I'm certain that they've done their homework, and I doubt that they want to allow Nocturne's mid laner to get that raw in his hands.
I'm wondering if we're also going to see a Circuit ban because we saw SmiteVOD did pretty well on Circuit.
Yeah, he did, but at the same time, I mean, maybe Nocturnes could burn it, but at the same time, I know Scylla can play it, so they'd like to leave it open.
Finally, we see a Raijin ban constantly be playing in mid, and like you said, when you want to secure those buffs, he's so important. So I'm wondering what they're going to be replacing him with.
And xShred did play him yesterday, so he'll be playing something different today, and he did quite well. So let's see if he can do just as well on a different card.
And Scylla, again, kind of sticking true to keeping away those high-pressure hunters at the very least. On Nocturnes, though, they're just going to immediately turn to the solo lane, and Osiris is a pretty huge pickup here.
Not much of a surprise there. We've seen Osiris banned out a lot, so of course, if you're going to let him through trying to ban out the 2 ADCs, you're going to let a solo laner through like that.
Yeah.
What does Osiris bring to the solo lane that other gods don't?
I mean, a lot of early game sustain, a lot of constant fight is what I call it, a lot of pressure just from being up in someone's face because he's always healing up with that death toll. Also, it takes it away from Scylla because Scylla did play it yesterday as well.
On top of that, Nocturns, if they wanted to, could go with a less high-pressure jungler that kind of has a little bit more of mid to late game focus. And Osiris is going to basically guarantee that Scylla, it'll be difficult for them to try and invade if they were maybe thinking about it.
I'm surprised they're not just auto-picking Erlang Shen. Does the matchup against Osiris not work very well?
It's not a fun one to be involved in. Osiris typically gets the better end of that because of that tether causing the stun out against an Erlang that you don't get as much out of the lane clear as you would probably want from that his 72 transformations.
Beltway does enjoy the aggressive warriors, though. So with Osiris gone, do you think we're going to be seeing a Guardian in the role, or do you think he's going to be going Bologna?
I would guess Bologna. Definitely not Erlang Shen, or at least I'd hope not Erlang Shen. But yeah, he does love his Death Toll warriors, so I would guess Bologna is the one remaining.
We got a Xing and a Ravana coming out. So Ravana over in the solo lane or jungle?
I would say jungle, and I would say Xing support before solo as well.
Xing, it could possibly be flexed into the solo lane, but based off of how Scylla were playing yesterday, it did seem as though they would probably prefer more of a high-pressure god in that solo lane. And Xing kind of can't really provide that. Not necessarily going to have the most fun against an Osiris.
Not too much of a surprise with the Sylvanus pick here because their support did play Sylvanus yesterday. Felt very comfortable with it. Didn't really provide too much team fight, though.
No, not really, but I mean, his blink ults can be huge, but at the same time, he can be bullied by a Xing and a Ravana, so we'll see.
That's always another thing to keep in mind too, is that with the Sylvanus, he brings a decent amount of team fight pressure, and if that is a Xing support, then you're going to have two pretty large AoE ultimates facing off against the other.
Ooh, a Medusa pick coming out from Scylla Esports.
I don't know if that's going to go to Shred or Mingyu. I know Mingyu doesn't like it as much, but he could just play it into the Hachiman because I think it is quite a good pick. But if I was to bet on it, I'd say Shred.
I think that Medusa would be such a wonderful matchup against the Hachiman, especially with the recent addition of her one being so potent in those boxing matchups and the passive to be included with Medusa from the side to side. Strafing doesn't provide you any limitations, and it's wonderful because a lot of poke out.
We do see that Circuit ban, like I was thinking about, because Nocturns Gaming did do pretty well with that Circuit pick. We got a Cabrakan, not much of a surprise, and of course a Fafnir. Very typical bans here, and Geb as well, because we did see Geb being played over on Torreyskiez.
And I look forward to see what Nocturns are going to pick for jungle here. Taking away Circuit, Cabrakan, and Ravana by Scylla picking it doesn't leave him the best of options, but we'll see.
And you still think that Medusa's going to be going over in mid?
Yeah, only because I know the way the players are. I would guess that way, but at
I
the
thought
same...
Shred was more of a traditional mage player.
He can play everything. He's a multi-role player, so...
Okay.
But it is a good matchup for Medusa versus Hachiman in the duo lane, or just the hunter lane, I should say.
One of the perks of Shred, though, is that he has so much previous experience in other roles that it does open up his god pool quite a lot. If it is Medusa in that mid lane role, I would love the pressure that Scylla could probably spread across the map evenly at that, since they have that Ravana combination as well, and Ravana is very difficult to deal with early on.
So this is going to be going to Shred,
Yeah,
right?
there you go. Vulcan into Shred and Medusa onto Mingyu.
And he loves Vulcan. He's played Vulcan a lot, right?
He has been, especially recently, so he should be very comfortable in this matchup, and once again, can really bully the Sylvanus. So Sylvanus is going to have a tough time living, but once he gets his items online, I think Scylla are going to have to switch up targets, maybe to the Hachiman or the Osiris.
And we do see the Erlang Shen coming out right there. But you didn't want it to come out on Scylla's side. How do you feel about it coming from Nocturnes?
I just don't know whether or not it's going to be jungle, or like Erlang's going to be jungle, or Osiris is going to be jungle.
Yes! Isis is picked. Now I have two of my gods check marked off. If I see a hell, my week is made. Isis is such a good utility god. Why is she not prioritized more?
She's very easy to punish, I think is the main reason why. For Nocturnes, they're trying to bank it off of really team fights. There's a lot of AoE between Nocturnes at the moment, and even still, Isis is going to have a very difficult time with objective control because of that Vulcan combat like, the Vulcan ultimate's great against it.
I think she's going to have a tough time living. If she gets plucked by Sobek just one time, she is going to have a really, really tough time.
That Sobek pick excites me as well. I know I keep gasping over here. I'm sorry. I just really like seeing these older gods played because it tends to be more the newer gods playing in the competitive scene right now.
Yeah.
Guys, Nocturn Gaming versus Scylla Esports. Who do you give it to?
I think I'm going to have to actually favor Nocturn's draft here because they have so much early game pressure.
I can agree with that, but at the same time, I'm actually going to slightly give it over to Scylla just because they might bully this Sylvanus really hard early with the Sobek.
All right, guys, we got it 1-1 casters. Do you think it's indecisive?
Thank you very much, Kelly and Analyst Desk. This draft is really interesting for both of these teams, Hindu.
It is.
We said yesterday we're probably going to see some very kind of vanilla picks from the NAEU teams, but today we're seeing the spice out of the international regions as they try to take these best of threes.
Well, it's do or die. That's the big key here, is that you will go home today if you do not win this game. So pull everything out straight away. Go with your strategies that you've worked on for the whole year, or at least from Super Regionals time all the way through to now.
So this is almost exactly the same as the start yesterday, but Torreyskiez gets an early block here onto Noitulover.
Hello.
Big knock up here. Noitu taking a lot of damage. OCE, can they get first spot? They can. XShred takes down Noitu, and there we go, Scylla. Ro literally said it on the analyst desk. They're going to bully the Sylvanus. That's exactly what happened to OCE Regionals. They know exactly how to play this matchup.
Usually that was such an important play there. The reason being is if you actually look at the lane situation here, Nocturns dominate pretty much all the lanes at the start, and one thing in Smite as it stands right now is early push power into jungle invade.
And it's so important for the player side of things for XShred to get this first blood. He's a player that sometimes struggles a little bit from behind. For him to get an early kill, that's such a boost to his confidence.
But look at this start coming out here. We've got a bit of a difference now. Majors have been left alone in mid.
Oh no, it's Zeiss that he's taking a lot of damage. Mingyu though can't quite get the last hit here, but the archers are looking to take down the Hunter from Latin America. Torreyskiez and Mingyu being absolute bullies so far in this game.
Scylla win for Scylla. Look at the pressure is good, so the beads are burnt too. And with that, it means that they're not going to get as bad on wave pressure as it would have been, but Mingyu had to Aegis.
Yeah, so 2 relics there, both burnt by the Hunters of either team, so really an even trade there. That really should have gone the way of Scylla. So the Nocturns, you know, they've lost the early kill, but they are showing kind of their maturity and experience by being able to play around that.
So both teams really wanting to try and give their Hunter an advantage back in the duo lane. Something we've not seen for a while. We've seen a lot of 1-2-2 meta in terms of position and starts. Well, now it's the mages that have been left alone, which means they will get the experience lead.
Torreyskiez taking a lot of damage, but will be able to dash away. Noitu really showing he knows how to play the Sylvanus, getting the roots off, and you know, early levels, there's no dashes coming out of the Medusa, so Mingyu's been forced to go into that at level 2. Torreyskiez had used his pluck there, so he was already out of position. Really nicely played from Nocturne.
And that's one of the issues for Torreyskiez there, is the fact that he did go pluck level 1, which got his team the first blood, but it does limit his wave clear at level 2.
But speaking of wave clear, a level 4 Vulcan against what was just then a level 2 Isis, now level 3.
First blood.
Yeah, that's very good for a Vulcan.
Yeah, more than first blood. And actually, looking at this now, look at the rotations coming around from XShred and Envisionise towards this left-hand side, making sure that the pressure that the dual lane of Nocturns has can't commit to the jungle and find the extra wins.
All right, Beltway and Kayo are going to be going at it here. Beltway really should expect to dominate this lane, I feel.
I mean, he really should. Osiris is just very strong. Although Xing, hard to kill. He's going to have a lot of regeneration because of the way his passive works of landing the abilities on both minions and gods too. So all you're going to see here is Kayo's there to farm, stay secure, not give up too much, and allow the rest of the team to do the work until he gets himself really online.
Hachiman is one of the newer gods in the game. Talk to me about his matchup with Medusa.
It's an interesting one because no one's really seen too much of it. Medusa, fantastic wave clear early on. The acid spit, especially when the likes of Amuz and Carb and Ul are not available. Medusa's a nice, easy, safe one to go to. With his build, though, we'll see if he goes for Devourer's Gauntlets, because a lot of the times that's the build we've seen a lot more often. Devourer's Gauntlet's a lot more worthwhile than that of Transcendence now, but Medusa is a very ability-based hunter.
Really nice work here from Nocturnes, getting both the Oracle Harpies and the Fire Elementals, making up some of that golden experience deficit they feel. Now, it looks like they might potentially be looking for Kayo, but Nocturnes realize, as you said before, Xing 10, very hard to kill.
SmiteVOD just looking to show presence in that solo lane more often than not and pick up a bit of farm for himself. The level discrepancy has actually been caught up a little bit by Nozq in the mid lane now. The rotations from Scylla towards the mid lane a little bit more, so XShred was sharing a little bit more experience there, means that Nozq has been allowed to catch up for a moment.
And Nozq is definitely the most recognizable name here on this Nocturnes Gaming
because
squad.
of last year.
Exactly right, and he's a tremendous mid laner. xShred, who's only recently kind of converted to the mid role, might struggle a little bit. And if anyone from these international teams is going to learn how to play from a deficit, it's Nozq.
The question really on my lips is basically, was it Nocturns that chose to do 2-1-2, or was it Scylla? Or were they both going to do it anyway? Because I think one may have just responded to the other one's idea of pressure in the dual lane.
Well, we saw Scylla do that yesterday. And I think from that, it's basically Nocturns responding to that. I'm just looking at the experience here, and Nocturns are actually ahead in experience with a 1-level advantage of Smite over Envisionise. So that's really nice work from them.
Problem is, though, Scylla has presence in the right-hand lane and the middle lane right now, and the left, so it's jungle time to try and fight and engage. The blue is already down, but the speed is just spawned.
Smite gets plucked in there, he gets the knock-up. Beltway using his tethers there. Here comes Kayo, spin to win. No dishwasher for me this time. Big knock-up there from Noitulover. Torreyskiez taking a lot of damage. He needs to be careful. Kayo doesn't have a whole lot of damage, and now Latam, they're turning around. Smite gets the kill. Xshed, though, with the Vulcan ultimate, not going to find one. Beltway gets another kill. Nocturns are turning this fight. Envisionise doing what he can, but Circle of Protections should win this one for Latam.
Nozq comes to the rescue, saves the Erlang. Shen gets him away, and Beltway is beating down now xShred, who isn't going to go anywhere. There's only one man left in this solo lane. Envisionise will get away unless Beltway has it, and he doesn't manage to find the extra damage.
Absolute disaster there for Scylla Esports. They initiated that fight, but we saw yesterday they sometimes struggle in target calling, and that seemed to me to be the problem there, Hindu.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, the big key there was Torreyskiez went down way too quick. Not at a tanky position just yet with the Talaria boots and Watcher's Gift, and just ate too much damage. Specifically though, Kayo, I really like his ultimate at the time that he did that to try and set things up, but it was a very telegraphed situation for Nocturns to turn back around, and now it's the Latin Americans that are in the lead.
Similar to yesterday, we see the solo lane for Scylla really struggling. Kayo now 2 levels behind. You said he got a great ultimate there, but Beltway, another dominant solo layer like Aquarius, really making his presence felt over on this right-hand side.
Still on Osiris at the end of the day. Factor in, you've got a bit more CC coming out from SmiteVOD with this Erlang Shed in the jungle, and then Nozq too. Beltway's just going to be able to whack on targets that are either rooted, silent, stunned, you name it, and no one's going to focus on Osiris. You don't want to invest into an Osiris unless you really have to, and he's the only target to go for.
We haven't really heard from Mingyu this game, or Zion. We saw some early kind of boxing and 2-on-2 pressure in that lane, but these two guys, particularly Mingyu, he's the big name on his team. Do you think that once he starts to get involved, Scylla should start winning some of these fights?
Well, Hunters will be a little bit slower in terms of how quickly they get their itemization and the levels online because of how the start of this game began with both the Guardians being over there. It did slow down the experience.
Knock up there from Noitulover. Envisionise takes some damage. Vulcan is coming through, but it's off target. Smite taking a lot of damage. Circle Protections is down. Torreyskiez again very low. Smite is looking to try and pick up a kill there. He's not to get it. Spirit Ball long range off target. Nozq trying to get one of his patented snipes.
Nobody really enjoyed that fight whatsoever. Both teams kind of like, do we continue with this? Nozq again though using his ultimate defensively, but Envisionise, he's going to have to roll defensively to get away from the pressure of Nozq in the mid lane.
Great work there by Nocturns, forcing out such an important ultimate. Mingyu and Zaionsix here going for a little bit of a boxing match. Mingyu a bit too far ahead of his own minion wave here. He's going to dash away. Smite looking to steal away the speed buff. Don't think he gets that one. Fire Elementals should fall the way of Nocturns.
Yeah, they will this time around. And Nocturns doing just a very good job of farming with 2 Warriors on their team as well, and the Guardian and Sylvanus. Their mid game is going to look pretty strong, but a lot of the damage is going to be relied upon Zaionsix and Nozq on this team. They have to put out a lot of damage, and Isis can struggle a little bit if she gets focused in the early game. He's not taking a tumble yet, Nozq, and we know the level he can play at. A lot of pressure rests on this man's shoulders, and so far, the Circle of Protections have been more defensive than offensive.
Well, and that's the great part about that ultimate, and particularly when you look at it up against a Vulcan, you can lay down that Circle of Protections, and even if you get hit by the Vulcan ultimate, not only will it do less damage, but you can also potentially heal up a lot of the damage that it does.
And I do prefer the fact that he's gone for a Warlock Sash start here in the mid lane too, just because he realizes he's going to have Envisionise jumping on his face, a Xing swinging around, and then there's a Sobek too. You want a little bit more health if you can get it. It's a great item when it's fully stacked up, and already at 25 stacks at 7.5 minutes, it's not too bad right now.
Mid lane, he was starting to see the pressure head the way of xShred and Torreyskiez there. I think maybe just because they got there first. Isis and Sylvanus should really win that push matchup.
But you're just going to be careful about rotations. If you don't catch people on the minimap, you've got to be aware. And talking about the minimap, there's a fight on the right-hand side.
Big knock up there from Noitulover. Kayo trying to get the spin to win. SmiteVOD, though, will pick up ShRed. ShRed gets the Vulcan ultimate off. Circle of Protections comes out. Kayo taking a lot of damage. Torreyskiez forced to jump away. Kayo as well, but Beltway with a whip over the wall will pick up the support of Scylla.
And that should be a blue buff as well to the side of Nocturns Gaming. They're the ones that seem to be getting off the better aggression in the jungle. They're both initiating, but it's actually Nocturns that are the ones coming out on top every single time. A lot of this is actually down to the tankier comp in the early stages that's coming to fruition for them.
The early warrior, double warrior composition, I should say, really make its presence felt. And Beltway especially is having a great game. 3-0-2. Already this tier 1 tower on the right-hand side is half health.
Hey, let's give him Osiris. Let him just whack away on a Xing 10 all day and not worry about him. And then in the team fights, no one's going to focus him anyway. So he's going to do a ton of damage and be able to clean up quite a few kills.
Gold Fury not looked at yet in this game, other than the Oracle Harpies in that area. Zaionsix dealing some damage there to Mingyu, but this first Gold Fury, I think, is going to be probably one of the most important points in this early game.
Well, I think the big key here is that Scylla can't play into the fact of trying to fight at the Gold Fury pit. They need to rely on the fact that ShRed can always be around with the Vulcan ultimate and maybe bait Nocturnes into a bad fight of them, not recognizing the Vulcan ultimate's available and turn it around from there. But
Mingyu dashing forward aggressively. There's the Medusa ultimate. Perfectly stuns out SmiteVOD. A lot of damage. And now Noitu's in a lot of trouble. Envisionise will get the kill there onto the support from Nocturnes. And now it looks like ShRed and Torreyskiez want to start up this Gold Fury. But now they head back towards the mid lane.
Good timing there from Scylla Esports to go into Noitulover. No ultimate available for that Sylvanus. Very dangerous thing to do. But talk about danger. Mingyu could fall.
Here comes SmiteVOD. Looks to get the pin, but Mingyu jukes it out. No mana available for him. Taunt comes in from SmiteVOD. Mingyu just desperately trying to run away here. Zaionsix.
Why did he leave?
They can't get the kill.
No, I mean, I'm surprised SmiteVOD gave up the chase. Yeah. He'd had a big heal coming through. He could have still taken a couple more tower shots, allowed Zaionsix to come in there and clean that up. Mingyu had no mana. He wasn't going anywhere.
He was literally walking away. He was holding the W key.
If anything, I guess the ward positioning, they didn't have cover to see if Scylla were rotating there, but that was a drop kill in my eyes. Should have been a free one on the left-hand side, which would have given Zaionsix a much better position.
It seems like Scylla have a much better position on this left-hand side of the map compared to the right-hand side. And as I said, you know, Mingyu is their star player. I feel like in this game, they really need to play around him and get him involved as quickly as possible. He's got his Devourer's Gauntlets online, starting to stack that one up. So do you think his time is soon?
I think the biggest problem for Scylla Esports here is that they've not made a decision who they're going to try and get to a better stage of the game. You're suggesting Mingyu, which I think is right, because I think Kayo has fallen too far behind at this stage, and Beltway is just a monster that is going to be unkillable, especially with the Stone of Gaia, which will heal him every single time he gets knocked up by Kayo when the cooldown's available.
Well, the good thing for Scylla is there's multiple knockups in the team, so they can try and proc that Stone of Gaia prior, but Torreyskiez gets plucked in here, gets a double knockup. Circle of Protections doesn't prevent Torreyskiez from getting away here. The big thing for me now with Nocturnes is that this healing is starting to become a factor.
But I also want to note, you mentioned the Stone of Gaia here, picked up for Beltway in the solo lane. A lot of knockups, as you said, and that is an issue because Stone of Gaia is great against knockups. Envisionise, though, is in a lot of trouble.
Taunted in. Can he get the ultimate off? Great. Silence there. The ultimate comes out just in time. Kayo trying to pull SmiteVOD in there, but SmiteVOD beats it perfectly, and now the blue buff, again, is going to fall the way of Nocturnes.
Tell you what, he needs a lottery ticket there. He got very, very lucky there. Mingyu now feeling himself a little bit in this left-hand side. He fought Barracuda yesterday, got a little bit too over-anxious, I want to say, but this time against Zaionsix wins a very good trade there.
Yeah, there's not, I think, the name factor fear that Mingyu might have. Torreyskiez knocked up and stunned, pulled in, full combo onto him. Great Vulcan ultimate for ShRed, and Torrey still gets away.
A little bit tankier this time round is Torrey. Last time, earlier on fights, was a bit of a different story, but now Beltway will get this solo lane tower for free just because of the pressure he's had against the Guardian.
But look at this, Gold Fury looking at by Scylla. I think Envisionise is actually just going to clear out the ward, but I saw 3 of them converging. I thought, is this where Scylla makes a play when Beltway's occupied on the right-hand side of the map?
Don't think so, just because ShRed's ultimate is down. That's the main reason. We saw the gank in the mid lane play there. If ShRed's ultimate was available, there's an opportunity for that, but it's very risky without having some sort of secure around this gold, or at least knowing where the enemy team is.
A very early stone cutting sword here from SmiteVOD. Very expensive item to go into.
But it will give him a lot of protections. He's going to be in amongst the pigeons to an extent of the enemy team every single time. So seeing him go for a little bit of a defensive option here, it's going to be very beneficial to him. And it's a damaging item too.
Speaking of damaging items, we've got a Doom Orb coming out from Shred, nearly fully stacked there. In fact, I think it might actually be fully stacked, so nice work. Mingyu going to dash forward here. Zyson dashing away as well, but Mingyu really wants to go ham here. The ward coverage isn't in his favor, so he wisely backs away. Smitero does have a lot of movement, though, so he might be able to catch him out.
If you had a few more minions there, I think Mingyu might have gone for the ultimate. Not necessarily to try and confirm a kill, which is unlikely, but at least force Zaionsix back to base, which means he would have lost a few minions to the tower, which means he continues to develop a bit more of a lead in that hunt.
Well, Zion is going to back away here anyway, so Mingyu does end up winning that trade, and that frees up Mingyu and Tori to rotate towards his mid lane potentially, or start up the Gold Fury.
Don't have many wards around that side though, Scylla, right now, so they're going to be a little bit careful about this Gold Fury attempt. They have started it.
It started.
Smitero now rotating too, and you can see that Nocturns responded in mid immediately. Didn't even go for the minion wave. They just went, hang on a second, something smells very fishy, and walk over, deny the opportunity.
A great game awareness there from Nocturns to recognize that situation and play perfectly. Look at Noitu here, trying to sneak a pull through the wall onto Torreyskiez.
Well, he also did the blink over the wall earlier on from the right-hand side, so we'll see if he goes for it again. That was the potential pick they tried to find on Torreyskiez earlier on. Torreyskiez at the time was just a little bit too tanky, and his Stone of Gaia was available for himself to heal off that knock-up.
Speed buff being confirmed there by Nocturne, Smitero, and Beltway over on the right-hand side. Scylla, they really want to take this Gold Fury. They're just a little bit behind at Nocturnes at the moment. They want to get themselves back to even.
It's more about response time. That's what Scylla are checking. Like, hey, can we do this? Is anybody really around? And Nozq and Noitulover both sat there like, you know what? We're just going to show presence. We don't have to commit. The Gold Fury's not low. We just keep showing our face. I'm like, if you're going to commit, we'll fight.
And what a good thing for them it is as well is that while they keep pulling this Gold Fury, it's allowing Kayo a little bit of time on his own in that solo lane to build up a little bit more of a lead, while it's forcing Beltway and Smitero to head back over towards his mid.
Definitely, and that's all what Kayo wants now, is a little bit more farm. He has his press plate of Valor online now. Will be pretty helpful against the 3 physicals that Nocturne Gaming have. A lot of cooldown reduction in that build. He would like some regeneration as time goes on, but I guess he can rely on that meditate quite a bit.
Red buff going to be coming up here soon, and that's what Scylla are looking for. Noitu going to back to base. He will be able to get his second relic here. What do you think he should go for?
On Noitu right now, he's already got the blink, so it's an interesting one. He could basically shell. Is always a nice, safe option here more often than not. Other options are technically you could go for the curse if you really want to go for that. The Feebling Curse can cause a lot of problems for the enemy team with those auto attacks, but they're not very auto attack focused. Shell, the burst damage, that's what you're worried about, and that's what Vulcan brings.
And I think that's so big for Nocturnes to now have that second relic on their support, while Torreyskiez has only just hit level 11. No second relic available for him. So this next team fight, realistically, Hindu, Nocturnes should seek to initiate because they have the advantage.
Potentially, yes, and that's why you see a bit of ward wars here. But the blink from Torres did not find the plug because the minion spawned in his face. And now Torre had to ult defensively to make sure he got out of a tricky situation, but it's still going on.
Smitero is the one that blinks in, and then Noitu follows up after the beads of burn. Mingyu and Shred in a lot of trouble. There's the Aegis from Mingyu, taking a lot of damage, and Smitero will find the Hunter from Australia.
Everybody always forgets how much damage that Spirit Ball can do. Mingyu did do a very good beads usage there to avoid the stun, but you're still going to eat the damage from that ability. And now the Gold Fury could go to Nocturnes. Nozq has his ultimate, and this should be free.
It is. Nocturnes get the first Gold Fury of the game and establish their lead out to about 4,000 in the gold department.
So they did get the kill to Mingyu as well, which is very important for them, and Nocturnes just continue the pressure. And one of the things you spoke about there is this secondary relic. Now, Nocturnes probably got a little bit more confident as we see the pluck onto Noitulover in the mid lane, although this might not be the greatest idea from Scylla as there's 4 members all grouped up.
Yeah, I think they realized that after they got the pluck, and I think they were lucky there that Nocturnes had basically burnt a lot of their ultimates around that Gold Fury fight, so they didn't get turned on. Scylla now looking for this Portal Demon, or at least to keep Nocturnes away from it, as the Tier 1 tower on the left-hand side falls. So a lot of structures falling to Nocturnes Gaming and putting more gold in their pocket.
Precisely. And going back to the play about the Gold Fury, there was a power play for Scylla for a while where they were aggressive, but the problem is that there was no second relic for Tori, and that gave the advantage to Noitulover. And Nocturnes immediately realizing they had a small swing there, went, you know what, let's use it.
All right, so we're seeing a lot of anti-heal come out of Scylla right now. We've got a Brawler's Beat Stick on Envisionise, Divine Ruin on Shred, and Torreyskiez already some anti-heal in his kit, but a Pestilence as well.
Some of the anti-heal is going to be semi-useful for dealing with things like Nozq and the Circle of Protection, and some of the damage, some of the sustain coming out from Noitulover on the Sylvanus, but they are viable items in themselves anyway. Like Brawler's Beat Stick is fantastic for what you're going to get out of it, so it's not a real surprise to see them go for a little bit of that option. Take into account, Erlang Shen's got a bit of a heal on him too.
Exactly, and even the lifesteal coming out of a Hunter with fully stacked Devourer Gauntlet. So I like the build choices here from Scylla. Oh, in goes Noitulover, blink into the pool, and the Spirit Ball Shred taking a lot of damage, bursted down. Noitulover claims the kill there, but really that was Nozq with the damage.
And can we also notice that Nocturns recognized Shred had no relics available. His speeds and age is still on cooldown for another 30 seconds. With that pick on Shred, and guess what Shred is? He's their objective secure. No Shred, no Portal Demon contest. Nocturns Gaming continues to grow their lead.
Can we just talk about, though, how Noitu blinked forward and pulled?
Yeah.
Now, I've never seen that before. The confidence to do that is incredible.
It's not easy either, because you've got to time everything to perfection on that. Like the blink ultimate from the Sylvanus is great. A blink pull, if you miss that, you feel a bit of an idiot.
Mingyu fighting with Spitera here. Zaionsix is here as well. Mingyu, unfortunately, I think this is another death for him, and it will be Zaionsix claims the life of his opposite Hunter.
Scylla's just pushing too far forward there. Mingyu should not be that deep. The tier 1 tower was already technically down on the left-hand side anyway. Obviously, he wasn't expecting a quick rotation, but with the man advantage that Nocturnes had, ward coverage needs to be more important. Make sure you don't give up too much more. But Latam are playing to the standard we expected them to after seeing them beat a North American team last year.
Exactly right. The first international team to win against a North American and European opponent. First international team to even take a game of North America and Europe. We can't forget, though, that Black Dragons and Smite Masters did take Eager to the full games in the best-of-3 set.
That is true, and we'll see what happens this time around, because Nocturnes, the winner of this, goes on to face a United, I believe.
The winner of this goes on to face Rival, actually. So,
well, that's going to be interesting to see if they can actually beat an EU team yet, because an EU team hasn't been defeated by anyone except North America just yet.
And North America is the only one to have lost to international regions. So.
Very true. Well, pressure in the mid lane for Nocturnes here. Keep an eye on Torreyskiez. He's going to look for a pluck if he can, but Nozq going to deny that option with a very good Spirit Ball.
I mean, Isis is, you know, if she's out of position, she could get plucked by Sobek so easily, but two of her abilities really kind of counter a Sobek pluck. She's got the silence where you can just deny him mid-dash, and then the Spirit Ball as well, which not only stops him dashing, it blasts him with damage.
I like your call of the silence there is good against the Sobek, but that's tricky.
Yeah.
Like, that's tricky to silence on a dash and predict it, but the banner pressure that's going to come out from Zaionsix will allow him to get a lot off. He's going to cost him his beads. They should be focused on the tower here, and they will get it, but Kayo turns up around the back.
The Vulcan ultimate is going to hit 3 players, but the Circle of Protection heals it all up. Kayo forced down great Spirit Balls from Nozq, and Envisionise forced to ult away defensively. He's still very low, and Beltway wants to go in. Speed buffed Envisionise, maybe not get it, but Spitero, beautiful immunity there from Envisionise, but Nocturnes claim the life of 2 of Scylla's players, and they're going to get 2 of their towers as well.
And that's the big key there. They get the tier 1 tower pretty much before the fight started, but the second one on top of that is a big gold swing. It's 500 gold for the team for the first, 1,500 gold for the team for the second. 2K and 1 team fight. You're not too upset. And not only that, strip a bit of the jungle.
We can see there, you know, even damage here between the 2 teams in that fight, but the difference is that Nocturnes can heal a lot of it back up, and they can get a lot of protections off with that circle protections, whereas the side of Scylla Esports really doesn't have that option available. Yeah,
now he's getting worse as well, because Nocturnes Gaming just swung to the right-hand side, picked up a tier 2 tower there too, so another 1,500 gold. That's 9,000 gold in the lead now for Nocturnes Gaming. At 21 minutes as well, let's point that out. 21 minutes and 9,000 is a substantial lead. This is where it's going to get very tricky now for how Scylla are going to come back into it. Realistically, if I'm Nocturnes, I don't want to really fight at a Gold Fury or Fire Giant. I want to take a fight more than the objective, because you don't want Shred stealing it with a lucky ultimate or a lucky auto coming out from someone. Instead, let them bait them in, pick some kills up, and then go for the objectives. But this could be it.
Look at this. Scylla Esports going to go for the Fire Giant while Nocturnes are busy with the Gold Fury. Do they have the damage to do it in time? Beltway is heading back over. Here comes Mingyu. Here comes the damage for the objective. I don't know if Nocturnes see it's going on. Beltway now sees it's going on. Can he stop them in time? Torreyskiez is going to get knocked up. Can Beltway get the hero play? Can he get the steal here? Shred with the Vulcan ultimate. Scylla get the Fire Giant, and now they're just running away. Pop the sprint. Get out. That's a big play for Scylla. Some recompense for losing the Gold Fury.
I will say Scylla had balls there, balls of steel to do that, because that call was good, but it was so risky of like, hey, you guys don't have a lot of damage.
Yeah.
If Beltway didn't necessarily go in to try and steal it, and he just started to try and fight them and keep them busy, the rest of the team could have came in, but Scylla actually put themselves potentially back in this game. The gold is still 10K.
big thing there as well is that Beltway burnt his beads, and his curse is also on cooldown. So that's 2 big relics taken away from Nocturns.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that like Nocturns gave up such a position there and were not in an opportunity. But Scylla, you give them more credit. Give them credit for that call, because that was the right level. Whoever made that call has kept Scylla in this game, at least for now.
Noitu blinks in there and only finds Envisionise, so yet another relic down for Nocturns. Envisionise, great discipline to only use his immunity step and not use his ultimate there. He was cool, calm, and collected.
I like the call from Nocturns here. They pushed out right line, now they're going to go mid, push it back out, and they're not going to really go and aggress onto a Phoenix here. It's not worthwhile. You got a Fire Giant team with regeneration as well as they get some extra damage on their side. It's not worthwhile, so play safe. Push the lanes out, and if they want to push, they can go for a tower, you know, give them a tier 1 if you need to, but just push out.
At this stage as well, the waiting game still favors them. You know, only Beltway's hit level 20. They've still all got items to buy. So they're happy to wait out this Fire Giant buff. Only about another 2.5 minutes left on it. So they're happy to wait 2.5 minutes before going any more aggressively, because realistically, Scylla can't catch up that much in time, and they could still be farming and still getting their items online.
Well, going for this portal dim could be a little bit risky here. Shred's trying to be around, but Beltway doing a good job of zoning them away. Means that Nocturns, with the lane pressure they've had by pushing these minions up, there was no way for Scylla to get deep enough into the jungle to get vision on it and even contest.
Alrighty, we see all 5 of Nocturns actually grouping up in this mid lane, just pushing the waves out, like you said, Hindu, trying to get a little bit of that farm.
This is nothing more than Scylla have stalled the game out through this Fire Giant. So now Scylla can sit there and go, okay, when this Fire Giant fades, what are we going to have to deal with? We're going to have to deal with Nocturns probably going for the tier 2 tower on left, and then after that, looking at the Phoenixes. Surprisingly, Nocturns are going to look towards it early on. I don't know if you want to really take that spot. This is why Scylla's here to defend. Normally you see him back away, but with the fact they've got Fire Giant, they're feeling a little bit more confident.
I think Torreyskiez as well is looking to find someone out of position here. We can see Envisionise hanging around the back right-hand side as well. So they're just looking to find that one member out of position and get a pluck or a pull or a pick here that can really pull them back in it again.
Yeah, it's still like another minute on the Fire Giant now, and that's why you saw Nocturns go, oh, they're all here, let's just back away, continue farming up. No real surprises there. I think the struggle for Scylla is going to be on committing in the next team fight, because once this Fire Giant wears off, I don't see Nocturns making the mistake again of giving up another Fire Giant. I don't even think they'll care about going for the next Fire Giant. They could just go for that tier 2 first of all, and then start to continue to pressure Scylla onto the back foot.
You can see the Titan's Bane being built right now by both hunters here. A lot of structure damage, a big kind of point in the build for any hunter is when you get that Titan's Bane online.
Well, for Zaionsix as well, I mean, he's going to have to deal with Sobek and Xing and Ravana in his face, so having that penetration could be useful for him. It's not as good for him in terms of tower opportunities because, you know, many of the structures for Scylla are already down, so Zaionsix won't make good use of the Titan's Bane there, but he will in the team fights. And same could be said for Mingyu. Plenty of towers, but there's also plenty of tanky targets to deal with on top of that.
Envisionise uses his immunity phrase there, ults away, but he's still very close.
Good pull.
Noitulover gets the blind pull onto Envisionise, who's forced to use his relic, taking a lot of damage, and he is going to fall down. Nozq credited with the kill.
Just too far forward there is Envisionise. Take into account his Ravana, who's like, hey, I've got an overhead kick. Hey, I've also got an ultimate, and I've got an Aegis, so I should be fine. But he wasn't. The amount of control and CC that Nocturns just chained one after the other meant he had to burn through them in the end. It all came down to that pull from Noitulover. I think we need to be careful about people giving Sylvanus to this Latin American team.
Well, he's hit so many great pulls
He
this
really
game
has.
Without any basically CC to allow him to get it, because normally you get kind of the root and then you pull someone in. That's what I have to do anyway because I'm terrible. But this guy's, I mean, he blinked forward and got a pull.
Yep, he's just played it very, very well. He's doing these raw pulls, and when your support is on fire like that, that's the dream. As the support player, Noitulover's like, hell yeah, I can hit anyone. Doesn't matter who. Who do you want to pull? Oh, that guy? I'll do it. No problem. It's really good when the support manages to get in that frame of mind where they can... And to be fair, Torreyskiez has done pretty well with his plucks too, so both the supports haven't had terrible games, although Shred could be having a worse situation here.
Yeah, forced to use his Aegis as well. Spitera is still going to pick up the kill. Shred does have his beads available for the next fight, but Scylla Esports can't keep giving up these one kills here, one kill there, because they're never going to have the full 5 to contest a Fire Giant that is literally just respawned.
I get the idea that you need farm, but why have you sent your mid laner to the duo side of the map alone with no towers to farm a wave with no wards? Like, all those things together, you look at it and you go, what? Why is that happening? Now, because of that, and we just said Shred doesn't have his ultimate available because he's dead anyway, they can't even look at the Fire Giant.
And Nocturne's going to go ahead and secure that one. No contestation from Scylla, no sneak here from Scylla this time. And now Nocturnes, they're going to be able to back by. There's only one tower standing in the way of all those Phoenixes and even the Titan of Scylla.
Gosh, Scylla again, man. They've got to get through to day 2 one day, right?
Well, this is their first time here, Hindu. You mean Oz?
I mean
though.
Oz in general.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I make it through to day 2 sometimes.
Yeah. You're like the token. That's what it
Yeah.
is now. We have to have a token Australian into day 2.
And Row this time. We've got 2. We've doubled.
I did that for safety. That's what it was.
Yeah.
You know? We might even see one of you in semis if that's the case. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Gold Fury, though, started up now by Nocturnes. They're going to take that as they march on towards the tier 2 town on the left-hand side. Only 2 kills. And if you think about it, Scylla, one of those kills that they've got was first blood.
Exactly right.
Before the minions spawned.
And since then, it's been really not much out of this OCE squad. You know, usually so loud and vocal. You can see him on the screen, you know, a bit quiet. And I think that's really a big killer for them, is that they rely a lot on their emotions and momentum and things like that. Xshed, again, a little bit out of position here. Here comes the taunt in from Smitero. Xshed taking a lot of damage. Then blinks Noitu, and Zion is going to be the one that claims the life of the mid laner of Scylla Esports. Mingyu taking a lot of damage here. Sprint pops as well. Middle Phoenix is now the new target for Nocturns Gaming. Even though Envisionise is here doing what he can, this should be a free Phoenix for Nocturnes.
And I love the focus on the Phoenix too. No minions on their side, but still Scylla trying to contend. The pluck forces the beads of Nozq. Nicely timed beads out of him too. And because if they got the the Phoenix in mid with no minions, they'd already pushed the minion wave on the left-hand side, which means this next assault is even easier. Not because of the Fire Giant, not because of the minions, but also because the sustain they have in their kits on top.
Exactly right. A lot of anti-heal on Scylla, but it's not counting for much when you got the Fire Giant up and such an experience advantage over your opponent. Beltway just running at Scylla and his opposite number. Kayo tries to do the same, but he doesn't have the same experience or gold that Beltway has, and he falls down. Smitero with a quick double kill. Nozq picks up Envisionise. It's literally only Mingyu standing in the way of Nocturns Gaming. Xshed has respawned now, but it looks like this is going to be victory for LATAM here.
Hold on. Be very careful here because they have no minions. Little bit cheeky here, Nocturne. They're trying to juggle it well, and they may just do it, though. That was a little bit too close.
That was very close there, but a great call for Nocturnes to just go ahead and end that game, get out of that one quickly, pick up the first game in this best-of-3 series.
It was a solid performance from Nocturnes there. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
They fell behind very early with that first blood pick. But outside of that, farmed up well, secured the objectives, took the fights when they needed to, and all stuck to the shot caller's choices.
I really liked the fact that even though Scylla got the first blood, Nocturnes were still able to look past that, keep going, and go ahead and win the game. And to see exactly what happened in that game and to break it down, we're going to throw it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hughesy. I got Ro and Taco back with me here on the Alienware analyst desk, and just kind of like we saw in the last set, it looked kind of like it was Nocturne's game at the start. It looked like it was Scylla Esports game at the start, that crazy team fight at the beginning. Ro, explain to me a little bit about that team fight.
Look, I mean, at level 1, when they get the first blood?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Both teams were really just looking for wards. They were scouting and trying to find the enemy positions, and eventually you can't push up to a Sobek as a Sylvanus at level 1 when there's 4 people behind him. And that was a great kill to have. You want to get that Sylvanus behind early so you can continue to bully him. Obviously that didn't happen, but it was a great start. On top of that, they got 4 assists and a kill. That's a lot of gold.
Without a doubt, but something shifted. They began to be a bit too aggressive with their tanks without any really damage to back it up, right?
It just seemed as though Scylla would consistently try to pick up an objective, and then they would toy around with the idea of it as though their comm seemed a little bit shuffled around, and that they weren't certain if they wanted to actually commit to an objective as much as they wanted to commit to a team fight. And that indecisiveness ultimately led to Nocturnes typically finding the upper hand in team fights.
The turn in that game was definitely that Gold Fury fight, I think at the 15-minute mark. Ro, run me through what happened there.
Yeah, well, Scylla just kept going back to the Gold Fury, starting it, unleashing it, starting and unleashing it. I think they were just testing the reaction timing, like Hindu said, of Nocturnes. Eventually, Torreyskiez thought he saw an opportunity, and there was a botched engage, unfortunately, and the Nocturnes re-engaged on top of that and eventually found a kill on Mingyu, which was probably the best kill they could get in that entire game. That was very crucial timing as well.
It turned it around without a doubt, and that's when we saw Nocturnes just run away with it. Even when Scylla got a Fire Giant buff, it was really only to defend, not really to push or do any offense. Where do you think that aggression and pressure came from Nocturnes?
For Nocturnes, it was just their entire composition, realistically. They had so many early game gods, or at least gods that are pretty favored in the early laning phases. And this one right here, the Erlang Shen for Smitero, I think was a perfect example because he was just constantly working around the knockups and using that Mink, whichever he felt was better for the current situation he was in.
And I mean, just the aggression going on there, the Isis, I mean, I'm a big fan of Isis, so I definitely want to talk about her. The early pressure that she brought, but the utility that she brought definitely seemed to pace the team for them.
Yeah, I mean, look at these Isis ults as well as they're on Smite Terror's cam. They're all grouped up, all getting heals, and you've got an Erlang Shen heal that's going to stop him from dying, and then an Isis heal plus damage reduction that's going to stop him from dying, and that's why he's ended up at 7-0 and 7.
You know, earlier, Ro, you were saying that you didn't really think that an early Xing pick was going to be necessary, but now with this pick here, do you think that Scylla's going to try and take that away from them?
I mean, I think it was just unfortunate because Scylla couldn't pick it into the Osiris, so it was important for Nocturns to take the Osiris early so they could take the Erlang later as well and put something uncomfortable on Kayo, because as we've seen him only play a lot of Death Toll Warriors recently.
It felt as though the entirety of Nocturne's draft actually had that utility feature behind it. Almost every single one of their gods could provide some sort of positive teamfight engagement. It makes it really difficult in those sort of circumstances for Scylla to really find that opening that they were initially looking for, especially after that early first blood. It was still a very well done recovery by Nocturns, though.
Definitely, yeah. Nocturns did not get too far behind when they did start losing at the start. They were almost always just like 2,000 gold behind, but when you have two tanks, that's kind of appropriate, right?
Yeah, it wasn't bad because Scylla had these gods that were behind, but most of the deaths were on these Guardians that don't really mind if they have less gold than the rest of the team. So they were in a decent position. They did start to slow down the game at around 10 minutes when they had that decent gold deficit, and they were waiting for Mingyu to be able to rotate and kill that Osiris. On like Beltway was the problem there. He was the one that was fed. He had the magical protection, so Vulcan wasn't going to do any damage to him. So they had to wait for Mingyu. But in that next fight at Gold Fury, they killed Mingyu, and it starts to snowball out of control.
And a lot of combo synergy as well. I think Ro pointed it out initially between the Sylvanus constantly plucking members of Scylla into those Isis ultimates, into the Isis damage.
You got the
in general.
root with Sylvanus, then the pluck, then the silence, then the stun, then the ult from Sylvanus. It's insane. You can't do anything for like 4 seconds straight.
Exactly. The only person we saw live from that was, I think, Torreyskiez, and that's because he can eventually get out of that combo, knock everybody up and dash away, but not many other gods can do that.